Hello and welcome to Wisdom and Productivity, the podcast of Dr. Efraín Martinez. I am a principal in search of wisdom, and I have found productivity to be a great tool for success. Today, I have the great and distinguished honor of interviewing Alma Solis, who is the principal at Steger Primary Center in School District 194 in South Chicago Heights, Illinois. Alma Solis, who are you?
Well, first of all, I want to say good morning. Good morning, Efrain.
Good
Bright and
morning.
early today. I love it. And the first thing I want to tell you is thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a true honor. Um, and who am I? Wow, that's a really great question. Um, you know, I really thought about this and reflected on this. And first of all, well, I am a woman, right? First and foremost, I am a mother to three wonderful children, okay, 17, 14, and 11. I am a wife to an amazing husband who tells me I love you every single day, so I am blessed. Um, I am a daughter, with the best parents in the world, truly. And I am a sister to six incredible women. I am one of seven. Um, I am a friend. I am Latina. I am a servant leader. I'm a proud principal at Steger Primary Center, and I'm a learner. And I think that would always be forever a learner, and I love learning. So that's a great thing for me.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. For me, the greatest honor is to be a parent. So I share that with you. Thank you so much for sharing that too. Sometimes school leaders exclude that part that is so fundamental. So thank you for sharing that. So, Alma, can you share with us your professional trajectory up to this point?
Sure. You know what? I think first and foremost, I do want to share this that I think I am very proud of, and I like saying it to hopefully inspire others out there, right? But I am the first in my family to graduate high school. I am the first, even though I was one of seven. I am the youngest, and like I said, I had the opportunity, I had the blessing, to come to this country. I was born in Mexico. Came when I was 3. So I've had the privilege to, like I said, graduate high school. I was the first to earn my bachelor's degree in early childhood education, and the first to earn a master's degree.
Wow.
And I think that's important. And now, like I said, I'm a learner because now I am also a student. Because I went back to get my doctorate degree at National Louis, and I'm very excited. Now I just started a month ago. That's it's still fresh and new. Ask me in a year how's it going. But that's something that I'm just very extremely proud of. And I share this experience, with you because when I went and I earned my bachelor's degree, I think it was different than for many others. I married my high school sweetheart. So we got married really young. We were 20. We were both working full time. We were both going to DePaul University. And then 5 months after we got married, we said, let's have a baby. I don't know what we were thinking, but you know what? We did it. We made it work. And, I'm excited. I'm excited about that because it's something that it's part of my life. And it was super hard, but you know what? We never gave up. We reached our goals. My husband finished first, and then I did with my degree in early childhood. And I was a teacher in the LSIP School District 126 for 6 years. So with early childhood, I taught 4 years in first grade, 1 year in second, and my last year in kindergarten, which by far was my absolute favorite. And then once I was there, I had a wonderful principal, Dr. Patty Egan, who really inspired me to become a leader. I've heard before once that you lead how you were led. And that's someone that I always looked up to. And I remember when I first started as an assistant principal, I texted her and I said, you are a goddess. How did you make it look so easy? It's not that easy. And granted, I was just an assistant principal and it was my first year, but I always looked up to her. So because of her, she was a great mentor, and she inspired me to be who I am today. From there, I was an assistant principal in West Chicago for 3 wonderful years. That was my first, dipping my toe into the leadership role, and I loved it. Um, with me being, and then now this is my first year as a principal at Steger Primary Center, so it's my first principalship. Yeah.
Wow, wow, what a long journey. Being the youngest of seven, being the first graduate, having a child with your high school sweetheart, going through that journey, and both of you graduating. Congratulations. Tell me, what would you say were the biggest lessons transitioning from teacher to assistant principal?
Wow, the biggest lesson for me, I think it's just your focus, right? I think when you're a teacher, you're thinking about, okay, well, I have to ensure my students are learning, right? But there's a lot of similarities, right? As leaders, we are the instructional leaders, right? Regardless if you're an assistant principal or a principal. The good thing, that I learned about being an assistant principal, I learned how to run a building, the in and outs, the managerial stuff. I think in one of my interviews, someone's asked, like, what do you think about like the role of being a principal? Is it a managerial job, or like, what is it? What does it encompass? And yes, it does have that, right? And that's important. But I think overall, our meat and potatoes of everything we do, our why is to ensure that we have our students that are learning. So there's similarities, right? Whether you're being a teacher, that's your main goal. When you're a leader, it's the same, but it amplifies it into a bigger scale, because we have to ensure that all the students in our building are learning. It was a shift for me, like I said. I think I have evolved as a leader. If you ask me, how I was as a leader in my first year as an assistant principal to now as my first year as a principal,
For sure.
I have evolved. I have grown. Remember, I said I'm a learner, so just learning every day, and but always focusing on the right thing. And as long as you do what's best for kids, you're never going to go wrong.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, Alma, like in Back to the Future, if you could go back to any position you have held in the past, what would the Alma of today, that you have mentioned that all leaders evolve, what would the leader of today tell the leader of back then?
The leader of today with the leader of back then, with everything that I shared, just my whole trajectory. And by the way, by the time I finished my bachelor's degree, and I did not only have one child, but I had three. We had three kids. So I think it was just very fast paced, for my husband and I, throughout. And something, if I would think about Back to the Future, is to sometimes slow down, but not with what we're wanting to do. It's just slowing down just to be grateful. I think a lot of times we're always in the go, go, go. And, it's time to do this, it's time to do that. But, just slowing down and possibly having like a gratitude journal so I can look back and you always say, like, count your blessings, right? Counting our blessings. And I think when we do take the time to do that, I definitely think that that's important. So just slowing down in that aspect, and just knowing what our blessings are.
Beautiful. What a great advice, having a gratitude journal.
Mm-hmm. And I think the last one, or the next one, it would be, and actually I was just talking about this to my teachers on Friday. We were talking about, our culture, and, we're doing a book study, Culturized by Jimmy Casas, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that we're talking about is culture killers and culture builders and everything that we're doing. And, and one of the things is like, we're always so busy, right? And I think with that, and I was just telling him, I said, I think in education, we're in an ever evolving field. It's never going to stay the same. I said, if we really think about, can you imagine if we stayed the same and taught the way we taught 20 years ago? That is not best practice, right? So I did tell them, I said, I think I wish, like, when I was going to my teacher preparation program, if a professor, somebody would have said, listen, there's going to be changes coming at you all the time, right? But I think it's the way we see it. I always tell, my staff, especially like as I reflect back with being a first year principal, it's coming in and saying, you know what, I am not here to change everything. I want to honor the work that has been done, right? But again, knowing that we're always looking through a lens of improvement, right? I always quote Maya Angelou that says, once you know better, you do better, right? And I think that's something that has always, stayed with me, um, because it's important. It's important for us to be able to adapt to change, to be flexible. If anything, leadership or being an educator has taught me is and always adapting to change and knowing that good things are coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alma. So let's talk about books. As you know, reading is a luxury. Um, uh, we can read in books, we can read in Kindles, we can do audiobooks, so many formats. If you will have to gift two books, one fiction and one nonfiction that are your favorites, which books would those be?
That's a really great question, Ephraim. A fiction book. I think the first time, every time I hear a fiction book and what's my favorite book, I always go back to my childhood days, and my all-time childhood favorite book was Charlotte's Web.
Ooh.
And that was the first book I read. It was my first chapter book that I read. And now as I reflect now on why why Charlotte's Web, I really like the message overall that Charlotte's Web had, and knowing that you have a tribe with you, right? You have a tribe with you and to help you and support you. And that is something that I know I make sure I always have. And I think, again, I'm I'm grateful for having that, and always knowing, just thinking about how I can be someone's tribe as well, and helping and supporting. And every time I think about a fiction book, I always go back to my favorite one, Charlotte's Web.
Beautiful. What
um,
about nonfiction?
a nonfiction. I've been reading a lot lately, and especially now, with the doctorate degree, some books that are assigned, and they're amazing books, and I don't see them as a work, right? But one of the books that I read over the summer as I was getting ready to lead, I love the book by Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Yes, I know that is such an amazing book, and there's a lot of things, a lot of concepts, a lot of things that I've learned from her, and just how being vulnerable, that is so important. And in being a leader, that's how we have to be. We don't know everything. There's no possible way. I told this to my staff. There's no possible way that we're going to know everything, but having our tribe, having the people, our team that we work with, and supporting each other. And listen, if I don't have the answer, I will get it for you. We'll figure it out together, right? And Efrain, I remember when I first met you in person, we were, I think, in the PLC,
The conference.
conference. I remember when I saw you outside and you told me, hey, congratulations, your first principalship. And, we've known each other through Twitter. And I said, yes, I do know you, Efrain. And we talked. And I remember you telling me, you know what, Alma, give yourself grace. That first year. And I will never forget that. And in times where it gets hard, I would always think about that, believe it or not. It's like, I have to give myself grace. It's okay. We're learning. So thank you for that. And, and another thing that with Dare to Lead with Brene Brown, I actually have in my office right here. I love the Theodore Roosevelt speech that she quotes, the man in the arena.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, I had to buy the one that said the woman in the arena. So I got that one. And sometimes, on those, hard days, sometimes you look up and you're like, you know what, I'm doing this. If I fail, like you said, we at least fail daring greatly, right?
Amen.
And we have to try. So that's I would say that's the book that I really just think about all the time.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I had the luxury of quoting Dare to Lead in my dissertation as I was going through the process of rediscovering myself as a leader. So absolutely a gem of a book, a great book to read multiple times. Thank you so much, Alma. So Alma, who is or who are your biggest influences?
I would say my biggest influencer has and forever will be my dad. He is one that, loves school all the time, and just knowing his story, that he always wanted to go to school. But again, he was in Mexico, and he said he was only able to go up to, I believe it was third grade or something like that. And then he couldn't go back to school because he had to help, his mom and dad, my grandma and grandpa, to work, so he was always, and he's one of the smartest man I've ever known. And when we sit down and have those conversations, that is someone who has always influenced me. And I remember when, I told him, my husband came and he asked for my hand. We were married, we're 20 again, right? The only thing he said, listen, I will support you. This is what you want, but I'm going to ask you for one thing. And I said, okay, what is it? He said, don't stop going to school. Continue your education. And I feel like everything that I've accomplished, I feel like he's living his dream through me. When I earned my master's degree, I mean, he was in tears and I cried, and it was just really nice. And I honored him and I dedicated that to him, right? So, like I said, he's always one that would always, every time I tell him about everything I'm doing, he's just so proud. And because I feel like I tell him, Daddy, just live your dream through me. I got you. I'm here. And this is, I dedicate a lot of the work I do for him. He's just very special to me. He just turned 80. We just had his big 80th birthday. And I know, but professionally, my biggest, influencers too, like I said, has been Dr. Egan. She was the one who influenced me initially, inspired me to become a leader. And I talked a little bit about her, but she's definitely one that I still keep in contact now. And she's just amazing. And also my principal, where I was an assistant principal, the principal there, she taught me so much. I think a lot of the things, she taught me everything she knew about being a leader. And I will always be grateful for that, because a lot of the things, like I said, you lead how you were led. And she's one of the ones who would always tell me that. And because of that, I was very fortunate to have worked with her. You always say, another thing she would always say is give credit where credit is due. And I do have to give her credit, because I did learn a lot from her, and I think when you're working with people, you're learning so much of the great things, right? But you also learn maybe of what not to do, possibly, right? So that's something that I've learned throughout, with everyone that I have a relationship with. And because we're human, right? We're not perfect, but we learn not just from our mistakes, but we learn also from others. So and then I'm going to have to say my husband and my children, they're the ones who influence me every day. I want to be a role model to them. When I started talking about, hey, I want to do my doctorate, and I didn't think I was going to do it so quickly. I wanted to give it like at least 2 years in the principalship and then start. But you know what? I knew I needed to build my capacity to continue doing this work that I absolutely love. And they're, my husband and my children are always supporting me. Like I said, they were there, my first graduation with bachelor's, master's, and now hopefully in 3 years,
For sure.
Again. So yeah, those are the people that have definitely influenced me in who I am and who I want to become.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And at that note, your doctoral program is going to really maximize your gains and your chances of succeeding, because it really elevates your practice. So kudos on you. It's going to be a daunting journey, but Alma Solis got this.
Yes, thank you.
Beautiful. So all of us at some point deal with imposter syndrome. We feel we're not good enough, or somebody else is better than us to do X, Y, or Z. How do you address imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome, it's so real, right? It's out there, and it's something that I think that we, unfortunately or unfortunately, sometimes we all think about, right? And we all have doubt, a lot of times. I think I always remember when I think about the imposter syndrome, I remember something that Angelica Romano, I think you know who she is. She's the previous HR director in West Chicago. So that's where I met her. But she would always tell me, you know what, Alma? She's like, sometimes, especially as women, I think we doubt ourselves, even probably more than men. And I said, okay, you're intriguing me. Like, okay, say more. And she said, you know what? Sometimes when we see a job posting that we might want, something that, and then we're reading. And then as a woman, when you read, and there might be 20 different skill sets or 20 different job descriptors that, and if you have one of them on there that you're not sure of, you automatically say, you know what, I'm not ready for this. I don't think I could do this, right? She's like, versus men, sometimes what I've noticed, she's like, and then they read it, and sometimes they might have one or two or even more, and they just go for it and they just apply. So, she's like, never doubt yourself. And that's something that I always kept that in mind, because it's, imposter syndrome is something that's real, that's out there. But we have, at the end of the day, what I always tell myself, listen, if they could do it, so can I. So it's just building the confidence and actually saying that out loud. And that's something that I preach to my kids all the time. And so they hear it all the time. And so that's something that I do, because even thinking about starting my doctoral, I doubt it too. I'm like, oh my goodness, is it even the right time? Should I do this? And I remember going to class and they're like, it's never the right time. It's great that you're doing it now. And we just have to, move forward, push forward. And just, again, it's just in building my capacity to continue doing the work. And I have to remember my why. Why do I want this? Right? Why did I want the principalship? Was I ready? Probably not 100% initially, right? Your first day on the job, you probably have a lot of those self-doubts. But again, just knowing that I always have to remind myself that I'm not here to do this work on my own. I have a team that I could count on, and it's building their capacity too, so that I can lead the school alongside my teachers, my staff, everyone. So that's something that, that I always go back to and say, okay, take a deep breath. I got this. I can do this. And if other people could do it, so can I. But making sure that we have the right supports in place.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Let's take a quick pause to celebrate the Teach Better community.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. Now let's get back to the episode.
So, Alma, let's talk about productivity. As you know, being successful is not only about our vision and our desire to want to make a difference, but it's to actually make it. And through that, we use productivity. But this looks different for different people. For you, what is your system of productivity? How do you get things done?
Well, I thought I had a system, and then here comes school again, and I'm a student. And listen, Efrain, like I said, I'm a learner. I'm still learning. But, I think being a principal has by far been one of the best experiences that I've had so far. I absolutely love what I do. And I've learned so much. And some of that, we always think about, and this is something that I started shifting even at home. And my children would ask me, Mom, how was work? And how would I always say busy? You know what? It was so busy. And then I said, no, I need to stop saying that, because, and I would say, you know what? I was very productive today, or I wasn't as productive as I thought, because guess what? Something came up, right? But it's okay. It's just knowing where your priorities are, and then establishing that routine, right? Establishing that routine of like, okay, coming in, looking to see what your day looks like, even from a day or two before, so you could plan accordingly, and always kind of have like those backup plans, right? With something that, that I always think about as far as, being productive, what has helped me is, of course, my calendar, right? And I couldn't live without it. And just make sure we keep putting stuff on there. As far as being productive and making sure, I think as a leader, one of the biggest traits that we have to ensure that we have is being great communicators, right? And with that, again, something that I learned from my previous principal is having like a weekly. We're cardinals, so I called my weekly memo the wing. It's a week at a glance. So, with that, I try not to send a lot of emails though to my staff. I try not to be one that would email them for every little thing. If I have something to tell them, I jotted down in my notepad, and that's something that I'm going to add in the wing because it has my little Solis tweets on there. And so everything's on there for the entire week because in my staff knows, like if I send something, it's something that came up that I need to share at the time or something like that. But just making sure that I'm also being respectful and mindful of their time, so then I try kind of to put everything in one document. And it's something that, that weekly memo, there's always someone in there when you open the document, and they, I've gotten great feedback from that. Another great thing that I've learned is having a monthly survey, that has actually increased our productivity, increased just the way we do things here. And it has 3 simple basic questions, right? What are we doing well? Second question is, what are we not doing but should be doing? And then what are my blind spots, right? Because as leaders, we don't, like I said, we don't know everything, or there's no possible way for me in every single section of this building. But tell me, what are my blind spots? Tell me, what are we doing well? What are we not doing what we should be doing? But that second question is it also says, what are your suggestions, right? Because again, we could always bring up issues or problems, but again, in trying to cultivate that culture of problem solving and solution oriented, then give me your feedback. How can we make this better, right? So that has been something that has helped me tremendously, especially in my first year coming into a new building, a new district, and just to ensure that that we're always heading in the right direction. And I think with that too, with being productive, I would say, is I remember, and I think one of the questions that this came up, I think one time, and I think it was Mike Lubefeld, because he was one of my professors in my master's program. And I think there was a question in some sort of discussion board that talks about life balance. Is it really like work balance or work integration, right? Work-life integration. And I think it's a little bit of both, right? But I think as leaders and having a huge role in the huge responsibility that we have, that I not only do I have my 3 children at home, but I have 380 something children here that I have to ensure that they're learning. And I always put myself as a leader, and knowing that the way I'm leading the kids here, it's ways that I would want my own children's principal to treat them and care for them. So that's something that that's how I've always led. But with that, I think comes, it's a huge responsibility, but it also comes with balancing or integrating a lot of the things that we do, right? Like not just work, family, now school work and everything. And it's just building a routine. My professor now, he's like, build a routine. For example, he would say, when I was going through this program, he said every Thursday evening, that would be my time to go to the library. And that was my time. And I would go, and I would always sit in the same table, in the same chair. And then what did he say? I think like one of the last times that he was there, he actually asked the person, can you please move from this table, because you don't get it. And he looked at him and he said, but you don't get it. I've been coming here for the past 3 years. This is like one of my last times here. And he was like, I needed that routine, right? So that's something that I'm trying to create now with something new. But I think that's also the reason why I did it now in the spring. So it gives me a great opportunity to get into a routine now summer, so that when the school year starts, I'm in that routine. So right now, that's where I'm at. I'm just still trying to fit in that routine.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. I love that you mentioned that you stopped telling your children busy. I was so busy, because just as your previous leader told you, you lead the way you were led. Your children will be the type of adults the way you model for them. So that was a great thing to do. And also, let me ask you about that monthly survey. Off camera, we had talked about it. I thought it was a fantastic idea to incorporate. What is one blind spot that your staff say, hey, Alma, you're not noticing this? I'm highly curious.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, some of them were very simple, right? Like your blind spot, like, hey, you know what? When we come in the morning for, for our arrival, this is something that we're noticing, and it's causing, a little uptick in student behaviors. And because I'm not always there because they have that particular morning duty, that's my blind spot. But also coming back and talking and then saying, you know what, okay, yeah, so how can we fix that, right? And being solution oriented. So that those some of those are just simple. Some of them are like, hey, you know what, this is just a blind spot. And I think I always tell my staff, this feedback, I want you to give it to me through your lens, right? I have a different lens. How they always say, like, as district leaders, we have that 30,000 foot view, right? As building principals, we have that 10,000 foot view. I see things more in a bigger scale. They're a little bit more focused because they're in the trenches, right? Day in and day out.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I have gotten feedback like, hey, you know what? Can we slow down on this particular thing? We need a little bit more time. The team is feeling a little bit of anxiety, so those are typically my blind spots. And those are great for me to see on a monthly basis. And then I report on those results and during my monthly staff meeting, just so they could see, because again, how you talked about modeling, right? I'm modeling that I like to receive that feedback. So in return, when I am giving feedback to them, it's like we have this culture of like, okay, yes, my principal does allow me to give her feedback, right? And how can we make it better? So it could be something simple, it could be something a little bit bigger, and then I bring it back to my building leadership team and say, hey, you know what, this is what has come up. Or I might say, if it's a particular grade level, I might go to their grade level co-plan time and we discuss it. So so it has really given me a lot of great information, and just those blind spots, like I said, because I don't know everything, and it's not possible to be everywhere, but and I think they do know that, and it's a great way for us to have that communication. And a lot of times they come up to me. They don't have to wait for the monthly survey, but sometimes, sometimes we remember, oh yeah, you know what, I should probably put that on there. And so I'm really excited for next month's survey, because we end school June 6th. I want to send it out next week, or probably even this week, at the end of this week, so they have time. Because I told them last time, I said, when I send you the May staff survey, because it's usually for the month back, I said, I want you guys to see it and reflect on it for the entire school year. What are some great things that we did? What are some things that we didn't do, but maybe we should be doing, so it would help me plan and get a gauge of what's coming for next year, right?
Beautiful. That's a great idea for all principals to emulate an extra opportunity for people to give feedback, and also anonymously, because sometimes people need that space to be vulnerable without saying their name.
Right.
Thank you so much. So tell us, when you sit down to write that weekly memo, you said the cardinal memo?
It was the wing.
The wing?
Because we're cardinals, and it was called the wing. Week in the glance.
When you sit down to write that, what tips do you have to share?
Yeah. You know what? Again, this is something that I took from my previous principal, and I remember suggesting a format. She's like, no, I want this like simple. I want it simple for me. I want it simple for the staff, because we have to make sure that we're doing this on a weekly basis, right? So I basically have just the dates: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What are like the main bigger events right next to the date, and then I break it down, and I put on there like what types of meetings that I will be in, because I think that's important to know, even if it's just me, even if it's just a meeting for me, because if they're looking for me, then they know at that moment I am not available, right? So just putting that out on there, making sure that I put links directly on there. So if we have our data day, making sure that we have it on there. Our problem solving meetings, making sure we put the links right on there, because I'm not going to tell them, oh, sign up for a problem solving meeting, but without putting it's just right there. I try to make it as easy as possible for them. And then there's links on the side that are there all the time, right? Like our master schedule, our calendar, our own calendar that we created that everyone has access to. So there's a very, like, just other important links that we do have on there. On the side, it says what's coming up, right? It's like, hey, giving you a heads up. It's not this week, but it's coming up maybe in the near future. And then towards the bottom, I have the Solis tweets. And then I put on there like just different things that we're doing, like if we're doing map testing, like putting in the schedule, making sure that we remind teachers of making sure that they have the right testing environment, things like that. And then all the way at the end, I got this off, I think it's Stephanie, I can't remember her last name, but she has the Monday Motivators. She's from Principles, and she has the Monday Motivators. And so there's a quote every single week that I have. She has two. She has a part 1 and a part 2. So if you guys go, you guys can find it. And it's a quote, and then at the bottom it's the same quote, but it has like a little story. And it's always relates to teaching, right? And then says to reflect on it. So then they have a moment to reflect. And just to make it fun, whoever turns in a reflection for that, I love quotes. I love having, just something as simple as this, on there with like different quotes on a daily basis that I just read and I reflect on it. And I want them given that opportunity as well. And if they fill it out, they put it in a white box, and I pull a winner every week, and they get a gift card, just something nice. And then we say who the winner is, just to make it fun. And, I've gotten a lot of great reflections from there. I think it's also provided me a way to build those relationships with staff, again, because we are, busy throughout the day. That's just a great way, because some of those reflections have been really good. They have been personal sometimes, and it just gives me a window into their lives and, possibly their struggles or possibly even their celebrations that they're having. So it's really good for me to read that. And that's something that I've really, truly enjoyed.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all these nuggets of wisdom. So Alma, as a mother, as a wife, as a principal, doctoral students, what do you do for fun?
Wow. You know what? I like to spend a lot of time with my family. I think my mom has always instilled that in us. And you know what? Whenever we have something going on, we get together. Now that they're a little more understanding that sometimes I have to do some of the work. But they actually just came back from Mexico on Friday night, and I was up doing, work. And yesterday, making it a priority to go visit them, to be there. That just, it recharges my battery to be around them. And even though I might have to say like, oh my goodness, I have so much things to do. But again, it's prioritizing. And I always want to make sure that on the weekends, I try not to do so much. My routine is coming Friday nights. I stay sometimes to 3:30 in the morning up, but that's okay, because you know what? That's something that I did even when my children were younger. 8:15 was their bedtime. They would go to bed, and that was my beginning, right? So I think being very purposeful when we schedule things so that I can try to spend as much time with them as possible. I love shopping. That's another thing. I don't like going to the malls though, but online shopping I can do. That's something that, I do. And I think right now, something that I'm trying to get to doing more of is exercising. But it's like, when do I fit that in, throughout the day? Again, I'm still trying to work on my routine, but just spending time with my kids, spending time with my sisters. We're very close with my parents when they're in town. It just recharges my battery. And that's something that, I always focus to striving and being there for them always.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. This has been such a great opportunity to learn from you. Any last thoughts you would like to share with the listeners of the show?
No, I just, yeah, actually, yes. I just would like to thank you again. I am very happy that you're doing this, Efrain. And I think, I'm learning a lot from you. I'm learning a lot from your guest, and and listening and listening to the podcast, because again, though these are little nuggets, right, that we do get, and we're learning so much from everyone. So I really appreciate you having this platform, so that anyone new to the principalship and trying to find out and getting ideas from other leaders who have been leaders for a long time. But thank you so much for providing this platform.
Oh, a pleasure and a luxury that you took the time to be with us today. I hope that you have a fantastic Sunday with your children and family.
Yes, thank you so much, Efrain. You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Wisdom and Productivity, the podcast of Dr. Efrain Martinez.
Chulo.
And I love that production. Chill out.